Hi, welcome to the Marketing Podcast. I'm Heather Watson.
And I'm Brendan Quigley.
How you doing today, Brendan?
Really, really good.
Really good.
But you can if you want.
Well, we really need to warn people today. We're talking about voice assistants. So if you have a Siri, an Echo, a Google, an Alexa, a Cortana, Bixby, you may want to turn it off because we may set off your devices.
Mostly just Google and maybe Siri.
Maybe a little bit.
That or, here we go, shall I wake everyone up at 6 a.m.?
Oh, let's not.
No.
Let's not set people's alarms or turn on everybody's podcast.
Wasn't there an Apple commercial that did that?
Well, I know Cookie Monster did the whole hey in Apple and it said set timer for 10 minutes when Cookie Monster was baking cookies. And I know I was watching the ad and my Siri turned on.
And set a timer?
And set the timer.
That's amazing.
Totally. And then I know, and I apologize, episode 11 of the Marketing Podcast.
Yeah, we totally bombed people's machines. Yeah.
I was listening to the podcast on my phone and I said, hey,
computer
assistant. And it turned on my phone and kind of did this infinite loop because it kept on backtracking the podcast, like those extra 10 seconds.
10 seconds or something.
So I would stop Siri and then I would say it again. So I'm sorry for that, listeners of episode 11. I know it was annoying to me, so it must have been annoying to you.
We are going to say a little bit this time. So
yeah. So we'll try and say, okay, assistant. Yeah. But we may trigger it accidentally, and we're apologizing in advance. So this is our voice episode. I mean, I think now lots of people probably got some voice assistant thing under the tree over the holidays, right?
Almost guaranteed.
A Google Home Mini
and the Echo Dot.
Echo and
so cheap. If you're in the States, they were only like $30.
Yeah. So I imagine now we're a good couple weeks into new ownership of these devices, and people are kind of realizing how awesome they are, or the opposite.
How tiring it is to say Google.
Yes.
Google. Alexa.
So today is going to be our voice episode. We're going to be talking about not all things, but some of the cool things that we've come across, including this. Yay, KFC Canada. Finally, something's coming to Canada besides the U.S. for starters. Happy on that one. So Mobile Marketing is reporting that KFC Canada talks chicken with Amazon Alexa. So
this is awesome.
Go for it.
Well, okay. I'll just go through some of the points here. They've created, Amazon voice activated skills for Alexa, which do a bunch of different things. It'll tell you jokes and pickup lines that are all chicken related, random chicken thoughts, references to chicken and pop culture. They've even got the Colonel's Quiz, which is a trivia game based on chicken. But what I think is really cool about this is that it is just brand building. It's fun brand building.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, if you haven't already, part of the fun of owning one of these voice assistants is making it say ridiculous things or, tell me a story or tell me a joke and hearing what it comes out with. I've been playing with Siri since the day I had Siri, trying to get Siri to call me crazy names or laughing when Siri calls my friends, like mispronounces my friends' names. I recently discovered you can get Siri to rap,
there you go.
like not GIFs, but like...
That would have been helpful.
That would have been very helpful. Or beatbox, or tell you a story. And if you do the whole hey Apple Assistant, tell me a story, it's a great, in a land far, far away, and tells the story about basically Siri's birth, which is a fantastic little story. So it's fun to be able to do that. And here's a brand doing it. And this is the first time we've talked about KFC doing fun things, of course, on Twitter.
Well, the Twitter thing.
Following, what was it? 5 Spice Girls.
11 5 Spice all the Spice Girls
all
and
Spice
6
Girls.
guys named Herb.
Yeah, and 6 guys named
Like, that's fantastic. Like, KFC and Wendy are kind of the fast food people to watch for their social media.
Yeah.
They're doing a really good job.
Cheekiness and fun.
And I think this is really good, too, in the sense that, it is cutting edge, but, I mean, it's in a light way. It's not, you're not ordering through Amazon's assistant food, But
yeah. Yeah, it's fun, and they're just using the technology. It would be great if the jokes and stories and things were available in the Colonel's voice. I don't know what the Colonel sounds like, but if the Colonel had a voice. Apparently there is an English language Canadian accent now available with Alexa, which I don't think we sound terribly accented, but apparently
Now, what I also think is really cool about this kind of thing for voice, and it's kind of like the story behind Solitaire for the computer. Solitaire taught people how to use the mouse. This kind of light voice, like the jokes and the trivia, is teaching people how to use voice assistants.
It just makes it that much more friendly.
I'm telling you, my
check
kids.
Check this out, Grandma, or, kids saying, make Siri beatbox. You know, it's...
My kids are already yelling at the TV because I've got a Google Home Mini next to it.
Right.
And my daughter's learning how to play a game with the Google Home Mini and how to try to get the Magic School Bus, which is becoming a theme, and I'm glad of that. But how to play the Magic School Bus, because she'll yell at the TV. It doesn't always work because of kids' voices, but it is just training. All this is just training.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that leads me to say, if you're a small business doing anything, it might sound crazy to think that a voice assistant or a voice skill is something you should think about, but deep down, they're really just bots. Mm-hmm. And it is something that you can think about as a small business.
Yeah, and that's a really great segue into our next piece. Adweek put out this fantastic infographic not long ago about how consumers feel about voice technology and how much they'll use it in the near future. So we're talking about people as consumers, not just people wanting to watch the Magic School Bus like Brendan's little people in his home. So we'll of course share this infographic on our website at themarketingpodcast.ca. The link will be there in the show notes. But basically it's saying more than 50% of global smartphone users want a voice assistant that can help them shop in a store. End sentence. Like that's impactful. So voice technology is becoming more and more pervasive in our lives, and people see these benefits. They may not know what's happening. They may not understand the technology and whether it's machine learning or AI or AR or VR. Or they can't even put like it may not be none of the above or a bot or whatever. But they do want to be able to say, "Hey, assistant in my phone, find this for me or do that for me," and free up their hands and buy them more time. So some of the scales that this is identifying, and just by the numbers, it's pretty impressive. By 2021, there will be 7.5 billion, that's with a B, digital assistants in the world, which is more than the current world population.
I believe it.
Right.
Everyone needs a Jarvis in their life, right?
Sure.
That's Iron Man's voice assistant.
Oh. You just saw the look of...
Oh, boy.
I'm sorry.
We've got a lot to do.
We've got... and I call myself a nerd, right? Like, what goal do I have? It kind of breaks down the growth. Really, 2018, there's a great chart that's shown here. And it's kind of slow. And then 2018, it's just exponential. Going from 2018 to 2021. Millennials are driving the market for digital assistants in the U.S. So we blame millennials for a lot of things. I guess we can give them a little bit of credit for this if you're a fan of voice, because apparently they're the ones who are talking to their phones the most.
Well, with that said, too, like, we all grew up talking to each other. Like, it's kind of like the first way to interact. You know, you're talking to your kids are talking to you. This idea that it's weird to talk to a computer is just like because we normally type to computers or click with computers. I would argue that it's actually like a really comfortable way to interact as long as the computer responds in the way you expect.
Yeah.
And that's where the technology is slowly catching up now. Like we're almost
it's learning.
Yeah.
Right? Now, interestingly, as much as we want to have voice assistants in our lives, one of the questions that came out of this survey was how consumers feel about AI-based apps over humans. So the question was specifically, how would you feel about a computer-based application responding to your query instead of a human? So a bot, basically. How would you feel? So 38% said not good, and 31% said good. 31 said, meh, either way, I don't care. And I think some of those 31% who said meh were like, I don't even really know what that is, and as long as I get the answers I need, I'm okay with that. I don't care who does it. But it's funny because we accept the assistant, like the Google Assistant and the iOS Assistant and Amazon, as kind of virtual assistants that we can talk to and have a conversation with. But as soon as you call it a bot or a robot or machine learning or AI, people get a little queasy about that because it's like, oh, I don't know if I really feel comfortable dealing with a robot. Well, Siri and Alexa and Bixby,
Same thing,
and they're all robots.
Yeah.
So I thought that was kind of an interesting number. Yeah, and then it just talks about the benefits. People are seeing this whole benefit of computer-based applications over humans, and that being they're available 24/7. You know, so 84% of people say, "Well, yeah, it's available anytime." I love that. Some people say that they're less biased, which I beg to differ.
Totally disagree.
Yeah. They're faster to engage. 68% says that they're faster to engage. We were talking about your Google Home Mini, and it's lightning fast versus my Siri, which is in my phone, not so fast.
Well, that's an older device too. I'd say the newer devices
sure
would be faster.
Yeah. I mean, and you had mentioned earlier, and I think this is a fair point, that your Google Home Mini only does voice.
Yeah.
Where my processor in my phone is like, turn the light on, turn the microphone on, turn this on, turn that. Oh, look, your call's coming in. You know, like it's kind of processing all those activities at the same time. And 64% said one of the benefits of interacting with computer-based application over humans is that they're more polite.
Wow.
They're 64%. It's like, well, robots obviously more polite. Now I've gotten into some great fights with Siri, and Siri won't tell me where to go, and I will, and Siri doesn't like that too much.
Yeah.
But I think that's interesting.
Now, so I guess I agree to a certain extent. There's a whole bunch of bots out there for the Google Home that are like conversational AI machine learning bots. You can talk to them. They learn from the previous conversations that they've had. And I had one conversation where it told me where to go, like really quickly, and I was shocked. And that's because it's one of these bots that you have heard about that multiple people had the ability to like teach.
Right.
So it learned some not pretty good things.
Awesome.
So with that said, of course the support bot for the department store is going to be polite and helpful. The open source experiment bot,
not so much.
Not so much.
Not so much. Kind of like that. What was that email bot that we talked about?
Rescam.
Rescam.
Yeah.
Not so much.
Rescam.org.
Now, so we talk about voice. What are some of the challenges and opportunities for the brands? And this was addressed in the Adweek article as well, again, which we'll post on the marketingpodcast.ca. So 80% of global voice technology users say that it works best when there's only one answer to a question or command.
Right.
Right. And that they're smart, they're just not good at processing multiple questions. Yeah. So that's potentially an opportunity if you're building something and you can get something, you think, what's the weather today? And you ask your assistant that, and then they say, oh, it's going to be raining out and you should do this and perhaps you should consider this, like to string together answers as opposed to just yes, no, and straight answers. 52% of smartphone users want a voice assistant to help them navigate and find products while they are in a store.
I agree.
Yeah.
But like as in...
How do I do that though? If I'm, forget the fact that I'm a user. If I'm a store owner and I say, I'm standing in, my big box department store and I'm talking to Siri or...
Well, so I think the stores that work well for this are stores like Canadian Tire. So if you know someone who works at Canadian Tire, you can play a fun game with them where you yell out something in your home and then they tell you the aisle that thing is in. Because from store to store, it tends to stay... Sure,
like your big box stores. It's the same. Aisle 7 in Canadian Tire is this in every Canadian Tire store.
Pretty much. And then do they go 7 left to right or 7 right to that?
Doesn't matter. They're numbered. All the aisles have numbers over them. You're fine.
Exactly. And so I think in a situation like that, let's say you're standing in a Canadian Tire, you could pull out your phone and say, hey, assistant, where are the toilet plungers? And then it would say aisle...
Or sale items.
Or sale items. And the way that this would work is you could say, hey, assistant, and this is what Google's been doing, talk to Canadian Tire and ask Canadian Tire to find me in their store. And like you see how conversational that is, but what's going on in the background is it pulls up the Canadian Tire bot and then asks that bot the question. And because that bot is specific to Canadian Tire, it has an opportunity to answer it accurately.
Yeah, and I feel like that is only going to work in a store that's 20,000 square feet versus my 2,000 square foot store in my downtown,
but I mean,
in my community.
The ability to make, and I believe they're called domain-specific bots, is really easy. This isn't... this is easier than apps. Like when apps came out, there was a big app boom for phones. to make these voice bots is easier than that.
Mm-hmm.
And so I foresee a future, right, where you could, as a small business, it's like part and parcel with your website. You make your website, you make your bot that answers questions off your website, that knows the layout of your store, that knows what products are where and what inventory you have. And so for all those questions that they're talking about, where there is one answer, you can just ask and you'll get the answer.
Yeah.
And then, as I've seen with some Google Home actions, they're called skills on Alexa, actions on Home. They have this like ability to pass off to the user, like to pass the information off. So with the Canadian Tire example, to find in the store, it's like you ask your assistant to ask Canadian Tire. Canadian Tire produces an answer and sends it to your phone.
Right.
And now
which is cool. Like I get that. That makes sense.
Yeah.
I think about like the application, and I referenced this once before. I was around when we went from, traditional cameras to, the digital point and shoot where you're holding it away from your face to take a picture, and everybody was like, "That's so strange. People look like fools." I don't see myself walking around a Canadian Tire store saying, "Hey, computer assistant, blah blah blah." Right.
But you have no problem walking up to somebody.
Not at all.
And asking them.
Right. Of course. If I can find them.
If you can find them, yeah.
That's the challenge in some of those stores.
And so, like, if I can be a little futuristic at this point, I also see a future where there are just smart speakers, and you walk up to it and it recognizes you. And then and you can just ask the smart speaker a question in the store.
In the store, kind of like the scanners. Like, can you do a price check for me? No, I'll walk over to this wall and scan it myself.
Exactly.
Totally.
But so this like weird future where you like walk up to the smart speaker and you start talking to the speaker.
Where do I find the Soda Stream that's on sale?
Or scarier still, what's on my schedule for tomorrow? And because it recognizes you, even though you're in a store, it would give you the answer.
Yeah, I don't want that. That is pretty scary. Let's move on.
Well,
no, because this is about security, and this next piece is about security. So the Globe and Mail is talking about the popularity of smart home devices raising cybersecurity risks. So we're not just talking voice now, although voice is part of that, but other smart home devices such as your garage door opener, your smart locks, all that kind of stuff. It's everywhere. I'm still looking for that smart kettle. I didn't get into the tree, by the way, Brendan.
I'm glad that you asked about the smart kettle.
Okay.
Because this happened with a smart kettle over in England, where literally the smart kettle was so easily hacked that someone could come by and get your Wi-Fi password via the smart kettle.
Via the smart kettle.
Yeah.
Wow.
And so, like, to touch on this, like, security hasn't changed. There's a way to do all of this stuff securely. But what we're seeing right now is in this rush to push out Internet of Things, so IoT devices, that, they're cutting corners. And in their rush to make things easy to use, you know what I mean? Like, I've got a smart kettle. How do you connect a smart kettle to your Wi-Fi? Like, what's the steps? Like, is there a keyboard? Do you connect a keyboard? Like, what's the... And so in the rush to make devices and to make it easy to use, these normal security things are being ignored and just aren't happening. And so you're seeing millions upon millions of devices with maybe no way to update them, going out with broken software that are easily hacked and then turned around. Like we saw, was it this year, where we saw the large DNS attacks? And they claim that the DNS attacks were carried out by Internet of Things devices for this very problem.
Right.
Anything that connects to the internet can ping a website. If you've got a couple million things pinging a website, you put a load on that website, and now you can start to affect things.
You can affect things. I know the other thing, like you say, talking about the race to get the technology out. I watched something about a year ago. It came out of CES. So I guess it was a year ago because we're coming right up on CES again this year. They were talking about smart locks, like just your door locks that you're putting on your home.
Yep.
And somebody ran a test on, the 3 or 4 big players in that field. And what they found kind of sweepingly was that the locks were either like super high tech in terms of the code and programming that they couldn't be broke into, in terms of the actually hacking into them, because the investment was on the programming side of it, But because the company had spent so much time on programming, they didn't spend a whole lot of time and resources on the hardware. So you could just like jimmy the thing with a bobby pin pretty simply. Right? Like, because it's like there's still like a physical hardware piece to it.
That's amazing.
Or the opposite was true, where it was like really, really strong in terms of the physical hardware, that it couldn't be kicked in or jimmied. But then it could actually be really easily hacked, because you have these two kind of worlds, right, of security and tech coming together with hardware and, widgetry, like actually like turn, click, lock, move, key. And those two worlds aren't used to talking together.
To me, it seems like two of these big players just need to merge.
They just need to merge. There you go. So I mean, it is like you feel like you're more secure because you can use your thumb on your phone or your thumbprint on your home security device to unlock it, and nobody will ever get the key. Nobody will ever. But then the reality is, well, it's such a weak lock that nobody even needs a key, because they can just sneeze on it and will fall apart. So I think it's an interesting time that we live in this whole Internet of Things. Where we're creating smart homes and devices. Regulations aren't there that need to be there. Yep. There's lots of opportunities for businesses who are in whether you're a service provider, to rig up somebody's home, or to create the place where people can kind of build that technology, right? And find those opportunities. Or if you're the manufacturer of these goods, like we all have to be a little careful when we're putting them in our homes. And maybe, is that why I didn't get that smart kettle? Is that why?
Yeah, I didn't want to broadcast your Wi-Fi. So, do you even have a Wi-Fi password at your house?
I do. It's actually a fun one. So I'm that person who like names the Wi-Fi network. The one
FBI van?
Yeah, something like that. I think it's like every day I'm buffering. So that's our tech security stuff. What else do we have? Oh, and then going on to your Google Assistant. More Google Assistants. eBay. Do you buy stuff from eBay still?
You know what? I don't.
Yeah.
Not really. Sorry, I shouldn't say that. I think last Christmas I might have, because I couldn't find it on Amazon.
Right. And that
tells you.
Well, this might be the pill for you. VentureBeat was reporting that eBay now lets you start shopping with the Google Assistant smart speaker and finish on your phone. Yep, you say like you know this.
Yep.
Tell me the story then. You know this firsthand.
It's amazing.
Okay.
Like so we were just talking about the voice bots being able to go a couple levels deeper, right? Being able to
give you more answers than like foresee your next question.
And so I don't know, this is probably one of the best examples I've seen of this, where you can ask Google to ask eBay to find you a product. Or you can ask Google to ask eBay to find you a price for a product that you have that maybe you want to sell. And then eBay jumps in and asks you a couple questions. And then at the end of the questions, it will search however many searches it searches, find a product, and then send it to your phone.
And then from there you can just click buy or bid or watch or...
Well, it would be... It actually pops up in the Google Assistant message.
Oh, it's
thing.
Not in Chrome. It's in the Assistant.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
And you can continue to engage via voice with eBay, or you could click the link and head over to the eBay website.
There you go.
You know?
So from a marketing perspective, if I have an eBay store, how do I search engine optimize?
I think you just have to do it the normal way. Right.
And how do I try and get that advantage so that Google Voice can find it?
I would almost create your own bot, right? Like I would almost create your own domain specific bot that helps customers with your products.
Right.
This is a great example of what can be done, and of course eBay wants to be on the leading edge of things. Mm-hmm. And so
that's surprising to me, because it's like eBay, really? eBay. 1992 eBay? Like leading edge?
Funny enough, you know what I mean? Like they are an auction site. Like they are different from Amazon in that way, that you can run the auctions. And
and they're pretty much like the only site. Like we talk about.
And I feel like it's kind of like a Kickstarter, Indiegogo thing.
Mm-hmm.
Both are good crowdfunding places, but if you can't quite get into Kickstarter, Indiegogo will take you. You know what I mean? So if you can't sell on Amazon because they're really strict, I'm sure that you can auction it off on eBay.
Anybody can sell anything on eBay.
Basically, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, the whole concept of optimizing your website, your online store for voice, because that's the difference now. And, and that's really what all this comes down to. When I open up Google on my computer and I search because I'm looking for a product, we as marketers and many of you out there know how to optimize the website so that, you know, whether you're buying ads or you've got, you know, good backlinks and all the keywords and SEO, like the long tail and short tail is all there, so that when I search it, it's going to come up on page one Google. It's kind of what the goal is as a consumer. If I'm searching a particular item, you know, that smart kettle, that I'm never going to get apparently. As I'm searching that smart kettle, I can scroll through and find maybe the brand that I want or the store that I know that sells it that I trust.
Yep.
Whereas when we remove the human interface from that, and you're truly just asking your virtual assistant, your Google, your Siri, your whomever, to find me this, it's really just up to your gut or the brand loyalty that you have.
And your trust in the assistant.
And your
trust at that point,
yeah. Or, I mean, it's something as simple as you're asking, you know, hey, computer assistant, find me a burger restaurant nearby.
Yep.
And it's going to give you the closest one, the one with the best ad campaign, the one with the best SEO.
The one who paid,
you know.
Definitely.
And what's going to, if I'm not in a market, like if I'm in a marketplace I've never been to before, and it gives me that one, and if it's a brand I've never heard from, I'll be like, ooh, okay.
Exactly, yeah.
You know, unless I specifically say, find the nearest XYZ burger joint, then I'm euchred, right?
Yep.
So brand loyalty becomes that much more important, so that your customers aren't saying, find me a burger joint. You want to say, find me your burger joint.
Yeah, no,
right?
definitely. And in the eBay example, it only gives, like, out of the 1,000 things it searches for, it only gives you one option.
That's it.
Yeah.
So how do you get your option to be that option?
That option.
Is it like, and I'd be curious to know. I mean,
well, with eBay, it's the highest rated. Like, so with
the highest rated seller.
So, like,
what if I want it based on the lowest bid price because it's an auction site?
Well, so it'll be,
or ending soonest.
It'll be the most relevant to your search based on the, like, options that you chose and the best deal, quote unquote. But there you go. You're at the mercy of the eBay algorithm for whatever product it pulls up.
Yeah. And whether you're paying to boost, like the seller is paying to boost that.
What's funny is,
because it may not be, because when I go to a place like eBay, I got to say, I'm looking for the deal.
Yeah,
because
true.
If it's, you know, a kettle, I don't say a kettle's a kettle, but like the brand of kettle, if I know exactly what I'm looking for, now I'm just looking to find
the cheapest
price that's going to ship to me when I need it and give me that value, because I know exactly what I'm looking for.
Yep.
And that's what I want my assistant to find me. You know, do I ask for that? Find me the cheapest kettle that's selling on eBay?
Maybe.
You know?
$2.
Or it's at 50 cents because it's not closing for another 30 days.
Exactly,
you know? So it's interesting from a marketing standpoint. And this is all uncharted territory for everybody right now.
Yeah. And I guess I want to reiterate, this is relatively easy to get started with. Like, this isn't, like I said, it's easier than apps were to build.
Right. Yeah. The barrier to entry is pretty low.
Is low. And I was surprised when I started looking into, okay, how do we do these voice assistants? How do we do these bot things? And I'm like, wow, like the tools are there. And there's a number of different companies, Amazon, Apple, Google, that have these kits that let you build off of them. So it is something I think businesses should look at.
Right. Yeah.
That's a lot of personal preference there, but
again, I think it's the first to market on this stuff.
I'm just picturing, imagine a grocery store created a virtual assistant that let you add items throughout the week. And then at the end of the week, you said, what's my list? It lists the list. All right, I want to pick that up tomorrow.
Yeah.
And now you go pick it up.
Yeah.
And it's like,
boom, boom, seamless.
Yeah, they've got the credit card, they've got the everything.
Yeah.
Whatever. Maybe I'm dreaming.
It's a land of opportunity, you know, at this point in time, and it's really uncharted territory. So it's the first businesses who are doing it in your space, in your field, in your industry, who are able to do it in a creative way. It doesn't even have to be perfect right now, because we all know that these virtual assistants are not the greatest in terms of their responses. And, you know, so you're going to get it wrong. Expect to get it wrong. Have the systems in place to be able to rectify it from a customer service and order fulfillment perspective. But really start playing with it and using it. Speaking of using it, we have it here.
Live demo time.
Live demo time. So this is the Google Home Mini.
It is.
Oh my gosh.
So you just touch the buttons on the left and right, and they do the volume.
Oh.
So it does have
I was
physical
just
buttons.
trying to pick it up.
Yeah, I know.
Oh.
You can do that there.
I can pick it up top to bottom, but not left to right. This is like a sensitive little beast.
Yeah.
So we have the Google Home Mini here in the studio with us. And Brendan, do we have...
What do you want to buy?
What do you want to buy? Let's ask it to do something on eBay. No, what am I doing? Am I holding it up?
Yeah.
That's
yeah,
what
hold
I'm
it up
doing.
there.
Of course.
Hey, Google, what's my name?
Your name is the Marketing Podcast.
Fantastic, Google. Thanks for that.
Great. So is that what I get to call you now?
There you go.
Brendan?
There you go.
The Marketing
It's now going to
Podcast?
call me that whenever I ask. Let's try something else then. Hey, Google, ask eBay to find me a selfie stick.
Okay, let's get eBay.
Great. Do you want a compatible model that's universal for iPhone 6 or something else?
Universal.
Are we buying another selfie
Great.
stick?
Do you want a mounting location that's air vent, dashboard, or something else?
Oh, air vent. No, dashboard.
Dashboard.
I looked through 7 options on eBay and the best deal on this item is $4.72.
$4.
I have more info on this deal for you. Is it okay if I send that to your phone?
Yes.
Okay, go ahead and check. And I'll talk to you there.
And because this is a podcast,
Yeah.
you can't see
You
what's on my
can't
phone.
see.
But basically, it will bring up that product for me. And let's take a look at it here. And I have the option to continue talking with voice to the assistant or to click through and go look at that product.
I think it's funny that anybody I have witnessed, including myself, that talks to their phone assistant has that special I'm talking to my phone assistant voice.
Well, I'm also talking across the room.
Yeah. But we're all talking across the room.
This is
when
on
we
top of my
say it.
podcast voice.
Yeah. It's like we're talking to that 5-year-old, trying to make sure they hear us and understand us and we have their attention.
Yeah, I have to say, the times where I'm kind of far away from it and I mumble, I'm shocked how well the speakers and how well the technology, and even like it's placed just behind the speakers on my television, it'll still hear me to pause the show. It's really cool that way.
Yeah.
But that's a pretty good demo of the eBay app. Like I call it an app, but the eBay action for Google. And that's doable. It's not super hard.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's really cool. So I'm excited about what this year is going to bring for voice, and we're going to see more and more people using it. Just like, we talked last episode about AR and augmented reality. There's lots going on in the space right now. There's lots of room for businesses, small businesses, as well as the big guys, but namely the small businesses, because we do talk to a lot of people kind of in that space, and the barrier to entry is lower than you would expect, and to start exploring with that to see how you can help drive sales and grow it, right? So for the Marketing Podcast, I guess that's everything today, right? So check us out at themarketingpodcast.ca. We'll make sure that we post everything in the show notes, and you can link to and see. And Brendan, good luck with your new selfie stick.
Yeah. $4. Why not?
Why not? At that price, it's practically a steal. For the Marketing Podcast, I'm Heather Watson.
And I'm Brendan Quigley.